Hello everyone. Today we will be doing questions 17 through 22 of Module 2 of the Math section of the Digital SAT Practice Test number 1. Each year, the value of an investment increases by 0.49% of its value the previous year. Which of the following functions best models how the value of the investment changes over time? So first, we see that the value of the investment is increasing. So that means we can cancel out options A and B. We also know that it's increasing by 0.49% of its value the previous year. That means the amount it's increasing is changing each year, which means that the function cannot be linear because we note that if we have a linear function, which is represented by a line, it's increasing by the same amount every year. But if we had an exponential function, we know that it's increasing by more and more every year. So that leaves us with option C. For number 18, we have that the population of Greenville increased by 7% from 2015 to 2016. If the 2016 population is K times the 2015 population, what is the value of K? So if it increased by 7%, that means that we're multiplying by 1.07. So if we have that 2016 population is K times 2015 population, then K is equal to 1.07, because if we multiply this by 100, we'd have 107%. So if it increased by 7, it was originally 100%, increased by 7, it's 107%. So for question 19, we have which expression is equivalent to a to the power of 11 divided by 12, where a is greater than 0. So we can just look at the answer choices and see which one matches a to the power of 11 over 12. So we have a to the 132, and when you're taking the 12th root, that means you'll divide by 12. Well, that's not equal, because if we have 12 is the same, that means the numerator should be the same as well, but they're not. So we can eliminate option A, and we have a to the 132 divided by 144. And we can see if that's equal to a to the 11 over 12. So 132 is just equal to 11 times 12. And then 144 is equal to 12 times 12. So if we write that out as 11 times 12 over 12 times 12, the 12s cancel out. So we get that is equal to a to the 11 over 12. So that gets us option B. Moving on to question 20. An event planner is planning a party. It costs the event planner a one-time fee of $35 to rent the venue and $10.25 per attendee. The event planner has a budget of $200. What is the greatest number of attendees possible without exceeding the budget? So we want to write an equation, or I guess an equality in this case, for the represented situation, and then we can solve for a certain value. So when we see a one-time fee of $35, that indicates that that's our constant, that there's not going to be any variable attached to that value. But then we have $10.25 per attendee. That means that we have $10.25 multiplied by the number of attendees, which we'll represent with A. And the budget is $200. So we don't want to exceed the budget. That means that we can either have exactly the budget or we can have less than it. So that leads to the inequality less than or equal to 200. And we want the greatest number of attendees. So if we subtract 35 on both sides, we get that 10.25a is less than or equal to 165. So then we can divide by 10.25 on both sides, and that gets us that a is less than or equal to 16.0975, and so on. So because we want a to be less than or equal to 16 plus some decimal, we know that a equals 16 is the largest number of attendees we can have without exceeding the budget, because if we had 17, then we'd exceed our budget of $200. So the answer is 16. Moving on to question 21, we have that if the absolute value of 4x minus 4 is equal to 112, what is the positive value of x minus 1? So a really useful trick to know here. We know that 4x minus 4 is equal to 4 times x minus 1. So we have the absolute value of 4x minus 4 is the absolute value of 4 times x minus 1, which is equal to 112. So a trick is that you can actually factor out this coefficient from the expression and leave the x minus 1 on the inside, because that coefficient of 4 that you're multiplying by doesn't affect whether the x minus 1 is positive or negative. And then we have that's equal to 112. So if we divide by 4 on both sides, we get that the absolute value of x minus 1 is equal to 28. And that means that x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus 28. In this case, it's asking for the positive value. So we have that x minus 1 is equal to 28. Then moving on to question 22. A cube has an edge length of 68 inches. A solid sphere with a radius of 34 inches is inside the cube, such that the sphere touches the center of each face of the cube. To the nearest cubic inch, what is the volume of the space in the cube not taken up by the sphere? So we should draw this out so we better understand what's going on. We have a cube that looks like this. Not the best drawing, but you get the point. And we have a sphere inside of it that touches all of the faces, and they share the same center. And we know that because the radius is 34 and 34, that the diameter is 68, which is the same as the side length of the cube. And we want to find the area that's outside of the sphere, but inside of the cube. And we can do that because the cube is entirely encapsulated, or the sphere is entirely encapsulated in the cube. We could just take the area of the cube and subtract the area of the sphere. So the area of the cube, well, we know that's s cubed, but in this case we know that s is 68, so that's 68 cubed. And then the area of a sphere, that's 4/3 times pi times r cubed. In this case, we know that r is 34, so that's 34 cubed. And then you're going to want to use your calculator to simplify this. So we have that 68 cubed is equal to 314,432 minus, and we can estimate in this case that pi is, you could put 3.14 if you want, you could also put 3. In this case, we'll just do 3.14 to make sure we're more precise. So plugging this into your calculator, you get 4/3 times 3.14 times 34 cubed. And that gets you 164,552 plus some decimal. So making this subtraction, we get 314,432 minus 164,552 gets us 149,880. And that is closest to option A. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe.